Hello everyone. Today I'm going to deliver you the presentation regarding carbon tax implementation in Indonesia, fiscal potential and economic risk. This presentation aims to is prepared for MM 5005 Economic and Business Landscape final exam. First, I'm going to tell you the information that Indonesia currently is facing a dilemma. While we need to increase economic growth for the public welfare, and also, in the other hand, we need to reduce the greenhouse gases emission. As we know, to increase the economic growth, we need to boost the industrial productivity, while the productivity could be improved if the more energy available. As we know, in Indonesia itself, the majority of energy sources comes from the fossil fuel, while the fossil fuel itself is the biggest carbon dioxide emitter in the world. Okay, based on the BPS, Badan Pusat Statistik data, as we can see on the graph on the left side, the GDP growth of Indonesia from 2020 to 2021 is quite high. It is due to uh, national recovery from COVID pandemic in 2020. And then in 2023, the growth also increased to 5.05%. The GDP also increased from 2020 to 2023. Aligned with the GDP and growth, we could see in the below graph the greenhouse gases emission is also increased. That means the energy needed to keep the growth also require more every year. And in this slide, I'm going to tell you about the supply and the demand of the energy. And the table one, we could see that the most most sectors that require more energy is mining and quarrying, with 78% of total national energy they require in 2023. It is followed by manufacturing, 6.4% of total energy, and power, 4.3%. While in the energy mix, majority of the energy source is from fossil fuel. In 2023, 97% of energy source is based on fossil, and only 3% of new and renewable energy contribute. If we look deeper for the fossil fuel, 84% is coal, and then 10% is natural gas, and 6% is agriculture. So Dewan Energi Nasional, or DEN, every year routinely publish the Indonesia Energy Outlook. The approach of this outlook is based on two scenarios. First, reference scenario, we could say is business as usual, and the other hand is green scenario, that the scenario is the government is more aggressive regarding green energy sources. For the reference scenario, energy demand growth is 6%, transportation growth is 5.7%, fuel consumption is 43%, and renewable growth is only 8.2%. While in the green scenario, energy demand growth is a bit lower, 4.7%, and the transportation growth is a bit lower, 2.6%. Fuel consumption also lower, 31%, and renewable growth higher, 9.4%. So based on the DEN publication, the CO2 emission increased from 421 million tons carbon equivalent in 2010 to 752 million tons carbon equivalent in 2023. or we could say that the average growth of carbon emission is 4.6% per year. While based on the two scenario, in 2034, it is predicted that greenhouse gas emission uh, for power, it's about 38% for reference and 42% for green. And industrial sectors, it's about 33% for reference and 37% for green. In transportation sector, it's 22% for reference and 17% for green. Household contributes 3% of emission in reference scenario and also 3% in green. And commercial contributes 1% in reference scenario, 0.4% for green scenario. The government agreed to involve in Paris Agreement, and as part of the contribution on September 23, on September 2023, Indonesia submitted the NDC National Determined Contribution to reduce target from 29% to 31.89% unconditionally, and from 41% to 43.2% conditionally for greenhouse gas reduction in 2030. So the framework itself, there are 4 frameworks that government use in this NDC. First, using the best practice. It means the policy frameworks also apply to either government, private, and community. And next, it's national resource management for food, water, and energy efficiency. Climate change planning for spatial planning and budgeting planning. Adaptation scenario for landscape like terrestrial or coastal marine. And in energy sector, the government aims to use more NRA, it's about 31% in 2050, while the other fossil fuel is likely reduced, oil only to 20%, coal 25%, and gas 24%. Government actually have several policies in order to implement the NDC program. As you can see in the graph above, on 2016, there was ratification of NDC. Then 2017, the government published the regulation to implement ETS, emission trade system, and in 2021 there are several regulation like Undang-Undang Harmonisasi Perpajakan. This is the best law to implement carbon tax. Voluntary ETS trial for power sectors, presidential regulation number 98 regarding implementation of carbon economy. In 2022, April, the initial plan start of the carbon tax for coal power plant. But on July 1st, the start just delayed. And in 2025, start of the mandatory emission trade system, gradual expansion of ETS and carbon tax to be followed. In 2030, the government aims 31.89% unconditional emission reduction from business as usual level. Below is the several policies that government has published in order to help the implementation of NDC program. For mitigating the emission or greenhouse gas emission, World Bank has estimated that no, I mean, in the world currently, there are a few mechanisms regarding carbon emission reducing scenario in economics. First, carbon pricing, and then emission trading system, or we could say ETS. ETS facilitates trading of emission allowance between entities. Next is carbon credits. It is used to offset the carbon for industry produce low carbon, and then carbon tax for taxes for the carbon emission above the cap, and then result-based climate finance for financial procedure for the climate outcomes. World Bank estimate that two-thirds of all indices under Paris Agreements plan to use carbon pricing mechanism to their emission reduction. So in order to implement carbon pricing, we should first emission cap setting, while it is used to give the flexibility for the industrial to set their own emission limit, or give the government the policy the power to dictate the emission limit for each factory. And then MRV measurement, result and verification infrastructure. Then we should establish carbon trading mechanism to facilitate transaction of emission quotes and offset, and then incentive and penalties, reward for the entities that have already applied or apply the carbon pricing mechanism, and penalties for the ones who don't, and guidance of all of this mechanism. For carbon tax implementation, there are two scenarios in Indonesia. First, cap and trade, and then cap and tax. As you see, the mechanism for each scenario, while cap and trade, it's require emission permit trading. For cap and tax mechanism, carbon tax for the excess emission. As you can see, and in the graph below, the difference between cap and trade and cap and tax. For cap and trade, the entity that produce high level of emission could buy the SEA, Surat Izin Emisi, from the company that produce low level of emission. The trading of Surat Izin Emisi and sertifikat pengurangan emisi, or SPA, it needs to be regulated by the government. And while for cap and tax, there is a limit, or we call it a cap, if the industry produce emission above the cap, the difference between cap and their carbon emission, it applied carbon tax. So in Indonesia itself, the carbon tax is 30 rupiah per kilogram, or equal to $2 per ton carbon dioxide equivalent. It's a bit lower compared to the other country like Europe Union is using very high carbon tax, 90 US dollar per ton carbon equivalence, while our neighboring country, Singapore, use 25.25 US dollar per ton carbon equivalence, and they are planning to raise that tax rate to 80 US dollar per ton carbon equivalence. Global average, the carbon tax is 6 US dollar per ton carbon equivalents. Indonesia is the lowest tax rate in the world. So in this slide, I'm going to give some simulation regarding carbon tax calculation based on the OECD 2020 is based on the focus group discussion between the governments to achieve achieve the NDC target. The carbon tax application will focus on power producer, specifically for the power plant that capacity above 100 megawatt. And then the cap, as you see on the table 3, the cap is different for each power plant, like uh, coal-fired power plant with above 400 megawatt capacity. The cap is lowest. The cap is 0.918 ton carbon dioxide per megawatt hour. While for the capacity between 100 to 400 megawatt, the emission caps a bit higher, 1.013 ton CO2 per megawatt hour. While for the mine mouth coal-fired power plant, the emission cap is the highest. So based on the BPS data 2023, currently, as you can see in the table 4, the PLN power capacity for steam, we can assume that steam use the coal to generate the electricity. The total capacity is 39,413 megawatt. Based on this data, we could create the calculation. First, we calculate the cap. We can assume that all of the power plant owned by PLN is the capacity is above 400 megawatt. So the emission cap applied is 0.9 ton per megawatt hour. So for this calculation, we could know the emission cap is about 36,181 ton carbon dioxide. And then for CO2 produced by the power plant itself, we use the assumption from CEA 2023, which said that for coal power plant, every megawatt that produce the carbon emitted is about 1.027 ton carbon. So based on this data, we could calculate that the CO2 produced by the PLN power plant is about 40,477 ton carbon dioxide equivalent. And then for the calculation of the carbon tax is the delta. Is the delta of the CO2 produced and calculation times the carbon rate. The total government revenue is a bit low. It's only 128.8 million rupiah. The lower revenue will certainly increase in line with the broader scope of carbon tax implementation to other sector and the increase of tax rate. Then for the macroeconomic approach in this occasion, I'm going to use a macroeconomic approach. First, the GDP growth. Based on ZAO 2023, the higher carbon tax raised consumer price and slightly reduced GDP and jobs. As we know, the GDP formula is consumption plus government spending plus investment plus export minus import. Based on these five GDP variables, we could analyze the impact of carbon tax. For the consumption, the carbon tax make the high carbon intensive product more expensive. It might be reduce the consumption since the tax implementation is applied to power sector. As we know, power sector is inelastic, so the consumption remains the same, and the impact to GDP is insignificant. For the government spending, the government get more income from carbon tax and will increase the spending via APBN, but the additional income not significantly compared to APBN. As we know, the nominal is only 128 million rupiah, is very small compared to the total APBN of Indonesia. So the impact of the GDP slightly higher, make the GDP going positive. And then the investment. Carbon tax will reduce the investment to high carbon industry, but it will increase the investment in NRE. But as we know, currently the majority of the business in Indonesia is high carbon intensive industry, so it make the investment to the current industry become lower, and the impact of the GDP is likely lower. And then export. Carbon tax will make domestic product COGS, cost of goods sold, become high and make the product more expensive compared to the export product, compared to the other product from the abroad. So it will reduce the export, and the impact of the GDP is make GDP lower. And then import, it is connected to the previous variables. The lower export makes the higher import, because the domestic product is more expensive than the outside product. So people tend to search the cheaper one and increase the import value. So the impact to GDP is likely lower. So overall, based on these five variables, the carbon tax will make the GDP reduce. It's in line with what ZAO in 2023 has concluded. And then for the inflation, in this occasion, I'm going to use the supply demand graph. As we can see, as we know, with the carbon tax, it will make the supply curve shift to the left from S0 to S1 with the same demand. It will make the new equilibrium from A to B. As we know, from in the B equilibrium, the quantity demanded is become lower. The shift is from Q0 to Q1, and the price is become higher from P0 to P1. We could conclude that carbon tax will make the price more expensive, specifically for the carbon-related product like coal, power, cement, steel, and petrochemical, and this will make inflation. And then regarding unemployment, it is we could use the what Zhao in 2023 found that higher carbon tax raise consumer price and slightly reduce GDP and jobs. Although carbon tax will encourage the NRE business growth, but in the same time, it will discourage current high carbon intensity business growth, resulting unemployment in current business. Employment in NRE might not outmatch the un unemployment of the current business in the short term. We could see on the graph the carbon tax implementation is discouraging the industry growth, specifically for high carbon industry. When the growth is lower, the job needs is also lower and it become the unemployment. The last part of macroeconomic approach is trade balance. The higher price due to carbon tax might cause higher CO gas in industry compared to import product price. The situation could lead Indonesia trade balance into negative due to tendency to use lower price import. So all of the macroeconomic parameters we could conclude in this graph. Yeah. So below the iceberg, there is the inflationary pressure, job displacement, reduced competitiveness, and carbon leakage in order to achieve the NDC via implementing carbon tax. Darwili at 2025 found that the carbon tax implementation in Indonesia might resulting a regressive impact on poor people. That means the poor pay more will pay more regarding this carbon tax implementation. So they Darwili proposed that the government should use the distribution revenue like bantuan langsung tunai to the poorest people in order to balancing the environmental and social impact. So this is the conclusion and recommendation. The government of Indonesia decision to delay or limit carbon tax implementation might be better approach for Indonesia economy in the short term. But in order to comply to Paris Agreement and national determined contribution, the comprehensive strategy should be applied. These are the strategies I recommend to be implemented by the government in order to apply the carbon tax in Indonesia effectively. First, it is need a transparent tax schedule, the predictable increase based on economic growth. The government should not raise the tax rate without pay close attention to economic growth. If economic growth quite low, so the tax carbon should not be applied. And then the strategic revenue recycling, it's what previously found by Darwili at 2025. The government should put the income that they get from carbon tax to the poor people. And then what should Indonesia do is expand tax coverage. The power plant sector above 100 megawatt is very limited coverage. So in order to get a better result implementing carbon tax, the coverage should be wider. And then align carbon pricing with the Asian or international market. So it means we should follows the neighboring country like uh, Singapore in implementing the carbon pricing or carbon tax rate. It is important with the lower carbon tax in Indonesia, the other country might come to Indonesia to produce more emission rather than in their country. There is pro and cons for this situation. The pro is the investment might come, but the emission target is for decided in NDC could not be achieved. And then monitor tax impact. The data collection, the annual report should be monitored and should be published transparently for the better of the national economy. Okay, that's all what I could deliver to you regarding carbon tax implementation in Indonesia. Thank you very much for your attention.